Hi guys, what's up? Some of you asked for me to make a life update video once I've been living in Europe a little while, even though it's only been 1 month so far. I have already noticed a lot of changes in myself and a lot of observations about the place where I'm currently living, so I thought that we would talk about it. Please don't mind my cats fighting in the back. So one change that I've noticed off the bat is a lot slower of a lifestyle and more natural. So what I mean by that is, for instance, there's a walnut tree in the backyard and there's a bowl of walnuts that were picked from the backyard that I've been cracking every morning and putting a little handful in my breakfast. Once September comes around, I believe that's when walnuts are harvested, I will be going out there myself and picking the walnuts. There's also an apple tree that I'll be harvesting. There are a lot more opportunities to naturally move my body, like a lot of walks in nature, exploring cute medieval towns nearby, which is quite different from like how my exercise looked back in the US, where it was pretty much just every day a different bar or Pilates workout in my living room. I still do some of that because it's currently summer and I don't like to be out in the sun. But once fall comes around, I do plan to substitute a lot of those at-home workouts with a lot more of the natural ones. I also find that the food is a lot more natural, for lack of a better word. They actually taste like food. Even just having like a tomato without anything on it, without balsamic, without salt, without nothing. It is divine. It is so sweet, so succulent, so fragrant. The raspberries too, my God, they crumble in your mouth. They're not like super sour. They're very ripe. You have to have them within a day or they start to mold. The strawberries as well, super sweet, super soft. This is part of why I moved here. I wanted to be somewhere that's very natural, very aligned with how nature is supposed to be. I didn't enjoy eating strawberries that taste like cardboard. Shocking, I know. Now, something that I do think is kind of a trade-off that I knew would be the case before even moving, because like I am European, so I already knew this about Europe. I feel like the US has really perfected the art of comfort and convenience. You know, there are a lot of appliances and household items and service options out there that really give Americans the ability to have perfected comfort, whether it be AC in every establishment or having those faucet jets that you can take out kind of like a snake to like clean around the sink. Just tiny stuff like that. Like Americans really have perfected comfort. And so I feel like in a lot of ways moving to Europe is kind of like trading comfort for quality of life. I love comfort, not gonna lie. Having been raised most of my life in the US, it's something that I'm used to. So it's been a little bit of an adjustment not having those things. You know, not having, for instance, mosquito nets on my windows, not having an oven in the kitchen. We use like an Instant Pot, putting clothes outside to dry because the clothes dryer isn't fantastic. Not having the little sink snake that helps you clean every little corner of the sink. I've kind of had to get adjusted to not having those things. But then the trade-off is having like live music on a random Tuesday night in a tiny little village, having breakfast on the beach, eating delicious food at a ridiculously low price. I do think it's worth it. I mean, it kind of depends what you prefer. Are you more for quality of life or for comfort? I think they both have things to be desired. But I mean, I thought about this even before moving. I remember thinking, I can't spend my life in my comfort zone. If I'm always sacrificing things for comfort, it's not good because there's going to come a point at which you don't have those comforts. And when that's the case, you're going to be, well, very uncomfortable by definition. And so I think it's good to get used to having less of that comfort, especially if it means getting better quality of life. As for the cost of living aspect, honestly, I've realized that I'm a little bit scarred after living on the West Coast of the United States because every time I get a bill, whether it's for groceries or for a restaurant, I get a little bit of panic in my chest. I wouldn't go as far as to say that I'm like traumatized by the cost of living in Seattle. I think that'd be a little dramatic and overblown. But I'm definitely scarred by how much it costs just to exist there. My husband was showing me like these Instagram photos of like what people bought at food trucks in San Francisco over the weekend. And it was like sometimes $35 for like a food truck item. And it's just bonkers. 35 euros is what I spent with 4 people to get a delicious lunch in a cute town here. So every time I get the bill back here, I just feel myself having like this sigh of relief that it's not gonna break the bank. As for logistical stuff, like, yeah, it is hard to like start over somewhere new. For instance, ever since my American phone broke, I literally don't have a phone number because it's so hard to get a local phone number. You have to go through so many hoops to prove that you live here. And like even being born abroad, like being born in a different country than where I currently live, it's almost like the system is built to not account for that. And it's like, what do immigrants do here? You know, it shouldn't be this hard to get a phone number. And I think it's like that everywhere. And honestly, I think it would be very tempting for anyone experiencing this to go, oh my God, I should just go back where I came from because there everything is so much easier. I already have everything I need. I already know how everything works. But you have to realize like the point that a person has to get to decide to start over and take these really difficult steps has to be so advanced. They have to be so sure that they want to leave that country and go to a different country that it's like, it just shows you how badly that person wants to move to that country. And obviously, like I've always been an immigrant since a very young age because I moved from Romania to the US, but I find now that I have even more newfound respect for immigrants. Like even thinking about immigrants in the US who, like, for instance, didn't speak the language. Like, I can understand now how somebody would find it difficult to learn the new language and how it would be so much more comfortable to just hang out with your community of people who speak the same language and to watch TV in the language that you're familiar with. Stuff like that is really hard. And I think I used to have like a little bit of judgment towards people that don't assimilate to a local culture because for me it was like, well, it's like a sign of respect that like you're trying to fit into the new culture. But now I find myself again just having like a newfound respect for immigrants who maybe don't do that because I realize now that it's really hard. Speaking of a sense of community, I already have a better sense of community here. And I've been here, like I said, only a month. Within a few days of us moving here, we had a neighbor invite us to an event with her friends. And she ended up needing to cancel because of weather. And what stuck out to me was how incredibly apologetic she was about canceling and how she still came by to say hi and meet us, even though she canceled what she invited us to. Because I remember thinking, this would never happen in Seattle. First of all, people were very flaky about like actually securing plans, but then even if they were to like cancel plans, they never rescheduled. They weren't super apologetic. They didn't try to make up for it by like still hanging out somehow. There was one person in Seattle who had plans with me, canceled the day before, and a year later still had never rescheduled. So like within a week to feel so accepted in this new community was just mind-blowing to me. And I'm just like, this is the way it should be. Another time, my husband and I, we were sitting out on this like little ledge on a fountain. We were just like watching a Ricky Gervais clip. And this sweet little old lady came up to us and offered to take a photo of us. And then she was asking us where we're from. And it was just an angel. She was so cute. And then her granddaughter was also really sweet. She kept giving me flowers. Not everybody where we live is like this. Some people are just like neutral for the most part. But to have these little moments of people coming up to you and expressing an interest in you and welcoming you to their home feels so special. The other day we were also out. We were having like a few drinks before dinner. There was live music. This British woman started talking to us. And again, she was just so sweet. She didn't live where we live. She was like vacationing there, but she lived in the same country. And there was just so much kindness in her eyes. And she was asking us about our lives. She wanted to know where we're from, where we're living. And also again, like when we meet somebody that speaks English, it means so much. Like it's such a relief. We can just like take a breath and feel like we don't have to be trying so hard to communicate, that I totally, again, understand why people tend to oscillate towards groups and communities of people that speak the same language as them because you have so much shared ground already. Although I do definitely plan on making local friends as well, like people who aren't American or British. Something that I alluded to in the original video that I made on this is that like living somewhere with such a rich history is unbeatable. And this is just like a personal value for me that like in my mind, when I think about like a place being beautiful, I think all over the world can be beautiful. I can personally find beauty even in like an alleyway with graffiti on it. Like I can find beauty in almost anything. But when I'm talking about like I want to live somewhere beautiful, usually what I mean is I want to live somewhere with very deep history. And that is reflected even in like my home, my attire. It's reflected in the fact that I wear like old-timey dresses and that I have like old-timey decor. For me personally, romanticizing life, having a beautiful life is the equivalent to history. And so we actually happened to stumble across a cultural festival where we live. We didn't know that it was like a cultural day. And there was this musical performance of like a traditional song that touched me so deeply, I literally started crying. Like, just to put into perspective, when you've found a place that is aligned with your values, how much it means to you. You know, like, most people might not feel this way. Most people might hear an old song and it wouldn't be that meaningful to them, but they probably have something else that's really meaningful to them. They probably have something else that they define as being beautiful. And if you can live in a place that has that, it means the world. Something else that I haven't touched on too much is that like the place where we're currently living is temporary, at least tentatively. We're planning on staying here maybe like 2-ish years, maybe 3. I don't know. I really like it here so far before going to a different country. But part of, again, having like a very temporary home is that it kind of forces me to have less clutter and less consumerism, because I know like in a couple years, we're going to have to pile all of our things into a moving truck and go to a different country all over again. It's like I can't buy too much clutter. And one thing that I found really helpful with this is just not getting enough storage space or like shelves to account for new items. Books don't count. I collect books. I use books for work. So like I'm going to buy however many books I want, okay? But other stuff like, getting a dish that looks really beautiful that I want, or like a piece of decor that I don't really need, I'm more likely to say, you know what, like I'm going to hold off on this because this home is temporary. And I know that in 2-ish years, I'm going to need to start the process all over again of figuring out what I'm going to get rid of and what I'm going to take with me to my next home. And so I would rather not spend needlessly right now. I went back home to Romania a couple weeks ago, and my therapist had actually pointed out that she was curious whether that experience would be any different for me now that I live closer to home. I think that, saying goodbye to my family in Romania was still really hard, like I'm not gonna lie. I think a lot of that is also just my grandma's aging, and the deeper into that process she gets, the harder it gets to say goodbye. But I at least know that I'll be back soon. Now I can come every couple of months if I want to, rather than 1 to 2 times a year like I used to need to when I was living in the US. But one thing that I did notice changed when I went to Romania, and also here where I'm currently living, is I feel a lot more Romanian because I'm using Romanian a lot more with family, going back to Romania more often. I feel like my Romanian is getting a lot better. I feel a lot more Romanian as a person. Like when you look at my home, for instance, and my clothing, you find like traditional folk shirts. You find Romanian rugs, Romanian tablecloths made by my great-grandmother, Romanian candle holders. Like 3 of the candle holders back there are from my grandma. So like when you step into my home, you don't say this is the home of an American. You realize pretty quickly this is the home of a Romanian person. Moving here has made me realize I'm a lot more Romanian than I am American. I've always kind of known that. I've never really identified as American. That's why even like in my author's description on Amazon, you'll notice it says I'm Romanian born, not Romanian American. But I think moving here has highlighted that even further. I got a comment on my last video about this that said this person could sense like a sadness about me in this transition in life. And I've been thinking about that comment a lot because I think it caught something about me that even I hadn't really caught until I read the comment. The truth is, it has been really emotional. And like, it's true that like big life transitions, even joyful ones, even ones that have been so anticipated that you want it so much, can be really hard. A lot of feelings get kicked up. Not to mention that, moving is really stressful. And so I've been super emotional. But I don't really see that as an issue. And the reason for that is that I tend to alchemize my pain into the beauty of writing and the beauty of like content creation. So in things like filming vlogs or TikToks and writing books, I think those are really great avenues to turn a moment of pain into something beautiful and digestible, bringing somebody else into your world. I don't know how else to describe it except alchemy. It's a way of transmuting one thing into a completely different construct that has completely different properties. Long ago, maybe like a year and a half ago, I read a little short story to my therapist, And she said that one thing she noticed was how, even though like the content of the short story was very dark and sad, that it was very beautifully written. And so it had like this juxtaposition of pain and beauty. And I think that's why I love being an artist and a creator so much, because it allows you to do that. It allows you to transform every moment of pain into something good and beautiful, so that when you experience those moments of pain, it's like, well, it's for a good purpose. Like, there is a little bit of a stereotype of like the tortured artist or like the depressed writer or whatever, but I think there's something to say about how that can be alchemized for good. Not that I'm depressed. I'm very happy. I'm just emotional. So I've mentioned in the past that like when I move to a new place, a new setting, I like to set some new standards for myself. And this one was kind of hard. Like, I found it a lot easier the last time I moved to identify what I want to be different about my life. Because I had already implemented those changes, it was kind of hard to think about what else I want to change in my lifestyle. But I had 3 things that were on my list. One was to go slower. Cooking, when cleaning, when eating, just like romanticize everything. Play music while you cook. Eat away from your workspace and really take your time. Go through every aisle when shopping, if only because you're still figuring out what is in those aisles. Truly savor every moment. That's one thing. The second one was I want to work less. I want to be stricter with myself about actually having a 9-hour work day or 8-hour work day, or like however little I can. And I want to be stricter about not working on weekends. And thirdly, I want to spend more time in nature and with other people. So I'm really excited for this, because all 3 of these, I think, can be broken down into one basic tenet of natural living. So I'm really excited for this new phase of life. I want to hear your thoughts. Like, all the comments I've been getting recently on this channel have been so heartwarming and truly like impactful. You know, I try to take feedback that I get on social media with a grain of salt usually, but because I've been a lot more vulnerable, I've found that a lot of you guys have been responding with very meaningful comments. So I really, really appreciate all of your support and kind words throughout this transition in my life. Oh my God, I'm tearing up again. This is crazy. I'm going to end the video here, you guys. I hope you take care. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon.